And then I'm just going to stop my video, right? And I'm going to Okay, hi guys. Welcome to our little presentation tonight about life after high school. If you're stressed like I am, hopefully this meeting will be a good, useful one for you, and welcome to the people that are at home. I just want to give a little quick update from the PTSA, just a few items. The first thing is we always like to share our membership status, and we have about 232 members right now, which is the teachers, parents, and students. So if you haven't joined, we encourage you to join. You can do that on our website. Couple other PTSA updates. We've done quite a bit of staff appreciation recently. First of all, at our bake sale that we had at the ribbon cutting ceremony, we made $500. That was very nice. People were very generous for all the baked goods. And then we had leftover baked goods that we brought to the staff lounge. So they were very excited about that. And then we gave the entire transportation department a little treat that had a Dunkin' Donuts gift card and some candy and things like that in it. And that was a joint venture with the elementary PTA and the middle school PTA. And then we're about to give all the teachers and paras Staples gift cards for their classroom use, because we know that times are a little bit tight with our budget, and we know that teachers always spend their own money. So we thought that would help. And the last little update is about All Night Grad. We have now 3 leaders, very excited. Allie Lapp and Steve Mostow and Claudia Fiegel have jumped in, and they said they will lead All Night Grad, which is wonderful. So it takes a lot of stress off the board. And the party will be in the house, so to speak. We're going to have it here at Meridian High School, and that's very exciting. It's the first one in the new building. So if you'd like to help out, you can certainly reach out to one of them. You can email me, and then I will get you in touch with them if you'd like to help out with All Night Grad. That's a huge endeavor, like hundreds of volunteers for that. So with that, I would like to invite Ms. Mural to come up, and Sheri is here. She's our career and counseling specialist at Meridian High School, and she's going to just run through what you need to know to kind of get your kid out your door when they graduate.
How do you launch them? It's a big question. And they launch in so many different ways, which is great. And so today we're going to talk about life after high school. And so first of all, thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here to talk to parents. My days are filled with talking to students, and I will say the adults on the other side of the college admission table, as this is a big season for college visits right now as they'll be winding down. So it's a privilege to talk to all of you today, and I'm happy to take questions at the end. But today my comments are going to focus more on not that 4-year college path, but what are some other options for students. That at the end of September, the other members of the student services team and I did a senior parent night about the college application process. So there's lots of content there, but there's so many other things our students can do. And so I want to share a little bit with you. So 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, gap years, postgraduate years, apprenticeships, military work, all of these are wonderful endeavors for all of our students. When we look at the Meridian High School profile, however, for the class of 2021, it's noted that 79% of our students graduated and are attending 4-year colleges, and 10% are attending 2-year colleges. So the vast majority of our students are going on to continue their education. But I'm going to shed a little bit of light on some of the other things that students can do as well, and maybe get on that 2- or 4-year college path after a little bit of a pause, and that's all right. So gap years. What I put on this slide here is just an excerpt of the Meridian High School gap year page that I put together last year. There's many more that it got cut off, but the URL is there. Gap years became of more interest in the high school student body because of the pandemic. Not a surprise. Students weren't interested in graduating and going off to college, not with masks or just on computer for college, paying the same, for some colleges, exorbitant college price tags. And so many students did take a gap year. And so a question that students I were asking admission officers last year was, how is that going to impact the class of 2021 in their college enrollment? And fortunately, it didn't have a big impact with students taking a gap year and joining the class that just graduated as first-year students on college campuses. So what do students do for gap years? Well, the purpose for a gap year, it varies. Some students, they just need a pause. They need that break. Our rigorous IB program can tap people out, and justifiably so. It's a demanding program. So a gap year to take that pause and gear up again for that next educational pursuit is a very justified reason to pursue a gap year. Some students want to pursue something that they haven't had the chance to do in their educational path thus far, and they can do so in an in-depth way through a gap year. Others are looking to volunteer, and AmeriCorps is a wonderful gap year program. And so that's my next point. Some gap years are very structured and formal. Students can pursue a volunteer experience like AmeriCorps for a year. And at the end of their year of service, they do get a small, I guess, stipend, I think is what they call it, to apply towards their college expenses. But other students are pursuing dance classes and painting and visiting with family or traveling, things that they're putting together on their own. So how do gap years impact college? Well, generally, students would apply in their senior year to colleges. And once they are admitted and decide where they are going to enroll for their degree, they would work with the admission office staff at that institution and request a deferral for a year. I think that's a wonderful way for students to go about pursuing a gap year because they have the resources here at school. The teachers, counselors who can write letters of recommendation and help them navigate that complex college application process. Other students, they take a gap year saying, I'm going to figure it out during my gap year and then navigate the application process. I have in my years working in college counseling, have worked with students who said they were going to attend school A. They got started on their gap year and said, oh, that was not the right decision. And so then they go through the college application process again, and that's okay too. It's all personalized for each student. But the reasons students pursue gap years and how they spend that time varies considerably from a structured program to a self-designed experience over the course of the year. To make that seamless transition, hopefully, from their gap year pursuit to their college or university usually requires students to put together in writing their intention for how they would be spending that time over the course of the year, so that there's clarity on the college side and the student side for how that's going to come together. So lots of rich opportunities. Oops, wrong one. I'm not as skilled as a teacher with working all these pieces of technology. Post-grad years. Post-grad years are most often held at independent schools, boarding schools. Students pursue those for a wide range of reasons. Sometimes they're interested in building their academic high school record, getting a stronger skill set in a particular area to use that as a launching point for success in college. Military. Prep schools, if a student is looking to apply to an academy, that would be their post-grad year to then gain the skills that they need to prepare that competitive application for the appointment, the nomination process, and so forth to work through the academy applications. So I listed for you the different military prep schools as options, but many boarding schools have post-grad years. I gave you the link for the Association for Boarding Schools, and they do list on their page which schools have PG being the lingo for post-grad years for students to consider. What else? Oh, got wrong direction. There we go. Apprenticeships. I can't say that this is particularly popular in our school community. What I have an excerpt here for you is, again, from the College and Career Center website. I was prompted to put together a list of apprenticeships, ironically, over the summer, that as we were settled into our building here, and my AC didn't work in my office. And so the HVAC people came and were assessing what was going on and why I didn't have air conditioning, and they fixed it, so I'm immensely grateful. I ended up getting into a wonderful conversation with the two people who fixed the AC in my office, and they were telling me about how they had a salary starting off in their apprenticeship. They increased their salary each year that they were an apprentice. They did not have loan debt. They had very competitive salaries and ample job opportunities. And so it was a stepping stone for me to say, this is something we need to develop more information to be able to share with our students. And so the apprenticeship resources that are on the website are primarily trades like HVAC and elevator repair and so forth. They vary tremendously in regards to the application process to become an apprentice. I don't know if you've heard on WTOP recently, the Steam Fitters Union has an ad that's been running. The Steam Fitters is a local group. It's on the other side of DC in Maryland, and their application to enter their apprenticeship program is a once-a-year opportunity. The application is due in January. They open it up, it's a 1-week turnaround, and then they make their decisions on their candidates. So they are advertising now for students to submit that application in January and be considered for their apprenticeship opportunities. And plumbers have their timeline and the numbers of times throughout the course of the year. So variability there. And so students, if they have a feel for what they would like to pursue as an apprenticeship, just needs to dive into that professional organization, the local union group, to find out what that timeline is. It's not as calculated like the college application process with the big November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, those common deadlines. So something for students to be aware of. But I gathered a group of resources that I thought could be valuable as a starting point for students to look for apprenticeships. But of course, if your student has an interest that's not represented on that page, I'd be more than happy to speak to them, and we'll figure it out by finding out what that professional organization is and what is that training path. So I love doing the research with students too. I'm a continuous learner as well. One new apprenticeship opportunity that really caught my eye last spring was FAME. There is a Virginia Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education. And I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about it. It's new. It started last spring. This year is the first class. It is based out of like Petersburg area, Virginia, and they have established a degree program, a full associate's degree that is an Associates of Science, so it's transferable to a 4-year school. It's starting, the students start their experience at Richard Bland College, but they interview with companies as high school students. They get placed at a company. So they work as an apprentice 3 days a week, and they go to school and take their classes at Richard Bland College for the remaining 2 days a week. And at the end of the 2 years, they have their associate's degree. So I put that out there because this is a very hands-on, someone who wants to be in the manufacturing industry, looking at the systems. We're hearing all about supply chain issues now, I know, on the news, as we're thinking, are we all going to be running for our toilet paper and paper towels and so forth? This is a great training ground that is new to Virginia to be available for our students. With Richard Bland, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute, a little bit further, they are a 2-year residential college. So your student could still go away from home, live in the dorms, take their classes, and be working and getting paid for their apprenticeship time to cover their college education costs. So I want to bring that to everyone's attention because it is new to Virginia. Now, the next one I have is enlisting in the military. Enlisting in the military is different than the ROTC path, the officer path versus direct enlistment. The context that I have provided there, the names are our local recruiters for the direct enlistment process. It's a whole different group of people for the ROTC officer path. I've given the names of our local recruiters, but know that in Naviance, all of their contact information is there. Students just need to click on contact my recruiter or contact the admission officer, and those details will pop up. We don't have a large number of students who go directly into the military, but it's a certainly wonderful training ground for a skill set for students who are going to be a fit for that career path, to gain the hands-on sort of apprenticeship within the framework of the military, and then continue to serve for their years and turn that into a career military path. So great opportunities for students who feel that that is a path for them. All right, now jobs. There's lots of opportunities for jobs, and we are very fortunate in the greater DC area to have government opportunities and kind of in comparison to other places, more of a thriving economy. So there's a number of resources on the College and Career Center website for students to be able to go and look and learn about what are starting salaries, what are the requirements, how do you follow a particular career path, how do you advance in that career field. So a number of resources there, along with some other materials that I've got for you. Workplace basics. I've got to change that for you. Georgetown has, I don't know if I call it a think tank, but a research center on education and the workforce. And they have a number of reports on their website. And this one came out last year, Workplace Basics. And I think it's something that as you're making a transition with your student, it could be very valuable for your student to read because it walks them through what are the competencies that employers are looking for. Things like communication, teamwork, customer service, leadership, problem solving, and complex thinking skills. So to show your students, these are the things that you need to be successful in the workforce, and then backtrack, how are they developing those skills as they're going through their latter years of high school so that they're going to be workforce ready. Naviance does have some resources as well. If a student says, I don't know what kind of job I want to pursue, it's a valid question, and they don't have to know the answer as the 9th grader either. There's lots of time to explore and figure that out for themselves. So Naviance is a tool that we use a lot in the college process in particular, but there are some precursor steps for students to think about different career paths before they're to the point of perhaps applying to college or applying to that apprentice program. They can explore in Naviance, work through the career clusters and pathways. There's some inventories for the students to complete that might say, my skill set is better towards marketing and communication versus that hands-on, maybe a STEM field and a lab-based career. Given that we have such a media-rich generation of students now, I think the Road Trip Nation videos are about 5 minutes or so with interviews from different professionals to give students a snapshot of careers. There's no commitment on their part. It's very easy for them to just flip through video after video and hear from different individuals to see what resonates with them so that they can make that jump from high school to the workforce or even that college path if they learn that they need to get a different set of skills and degrees in order to be workforce ready. So Naviance is a tool that can be very helpful to students as well as they're thinking about career options to enter the workforce. I didn't change it for you. See, I'm not as skilled at the remote as the teachers in the classroom. So that was my video to show you how to navigate in Naviance, or my slide to navigate in Naviance to find those Road Trip Nation videos. So my apologies for not advancing it for you. I only advanced on my screen. So I mentioned Richard Bland College. And we are so privileged to have someone from Nova here today to answer questions about Nova, but I want to elaborate a little bit more about Richard Bland because I think it's a hidden gem that our students haven't explored. I had mentioned it in regards to the FAME programs in the manufacturing industry and the partnership that they have to get students those associate degrees in science and those hands-on skills. Richard Bland is the only residential two-year school in Virginia. It's connected with the College of William and Mary. So that doesn't mean that all students who go to Richard Bland then transfer to the College of William and Mary, but there is a historical connection between the schools. They're about an hour apart. Richard Bland as a whole does have dorms. Only about 400 students live on campus. There are about 1,000 traditional age students. So there is a commuting adult population returning to improve their skill set, to be ready for different career pursuits. But there is a core undergraduate student population of about 1,000 students. 40% or so living on campus. There's sports and residence life and meal plans and all of those things that you would find at four-year institutions, but in the two-year context at Richard Bland. Richard Bland also has partnerships, and I've listed the 3 that they have as ways for students to start at Richard Bland and transfer to a four-year school. There are 3 ways to do so for pathways to get to William and Mary. Although when I spoke to their admission officer, William and Mary, ironically, is not the school that is the destination that most of their students attend. The students at Richard Bland go to a wide range of schools. So despite that relationship in name and history with the College of William and Mary, students at Richard Bland are going to lots of different places. And I've included on the slide their 4-year transfer partners. And that link will take you to the list of all of the admission agreements, the contracts that Richard Bland has with 4-year institutions. So you're saying, what is this? What is a contract? What does this mean? Well, what it means is that a student takes classes at Richard Bland, and if they follow the coursework that is outlined in the contract with, let's say, JMU, and they take the classes that JMU has said will transfer to our school, it can be a seamless progression from the 2-year school to the 4-year school, provided that they meet the minimum GPA requirements. So I'll add that as well. To move from one school to the next and to continue on that 4-year path to get their degree. Nova has similar guaranteed admission agreements with lots of schools, private schools and public schools as well. So guaranteed admission agreements, those contracts, it's the outline for students to follow. Where that can really benefit students is that that 4-year college degree can stay in 4 years, where you're paying the lower price point for the first 2 years of their study. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is if a student just doesn't know what they want to study. And they start off at college and they're taking some general education classes and getting a feel for where their interests are. And that's wonderful as well. And to do so at a 2-year school at a much lower price point is a bonus, I think, because college is so expensive, or some of them are so expensive. But not all of those classes that a student is taking while they're exploring might be part of that contract with the 4-year school. So sometimes that 4-year path can balloon up to be a little bit longer, whether it be a 4.5 or 5-year program, based upon how certain the student is at the very beginning of what their career path is going to be, to follow that contract line by line and take those classes that are in that guaranteed admission agreement. The other way that that can falter a little bit for students is if they simply don't know what's that 4-year school that they want to be at either. So the contracts do differ from a 4-year school to another 4-year school. But if the student does have that sense of what they would like to pursue, what they want to major in, and where they would like to be on that 4-year path, programs such as Nova's and Richard Bland's guaranteed admission agreements with partner schools, with those contracts, following line by line, those contracts can keep a 4-year degree within that 4-year time span at a much lower price point. So I'm a fast talking New Yorker. And so I feel like I've covered a wide range of topics for all of you. And I know that there are questions. I know that there's more information and resources that you as parents need in order to feel as though you can best support your students. And I'm here to help with that. Before we jump into questions though, I do want to ask my colleague from Nova, Salam, if you have any words that you would like to just to introduce yourself to our audience. And then I think once we do that, then we can. I certainly can. Yep, I can turn off the slides here and I can navigate Naviance if you all have questions on that. Why don't you introduce yourself here though? And I think you need to come over to be on screen here and our microphone is here.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
It's great to meet you all. My name is Salam. I work really closely with Ms. Mural and helping seniors specifically at Meridian in transitioning from Meridian to Nova. We have sessions offered through the College and Career Center so the students can complete all the steps for getting started during the school day with support, and they're not having to kind of scramble and do anything during spring break or during summer break. So I encourage them to attend those sessions as much as possible, and I look forward to working with them and you all, and I'll be here to answer any questions you all have about Nova.
And I'm not good with this remote. I should have put this up. There's 3 information sessions that are coming up with Salam to learn more about Nova and walk through those steps to be registered sooner rather than later at NOVA, to have completed the financial aid applications, to navigate any outside scholarship programs. NOVA has an abundance of resources of scholarship opportunities. So the sooner students get in, for lack of a better phrase, the pipeline to walk through the steps to register at NOVA, they can find out financial aid packages and be aware of other scholarship opportunities to offset the cost of tuition. So we have 3 dates coming up. These are all going to be Zoom meetings. I scheduled them during Mustang block, so there's no excuse for your students to miss class. They come to my office. We have not quite as big of a TV, but still a wonderful TV that we cast Salam to, so all of our students can see her and feel as interactive as possible. And she has material to walk through these content areas, but then they generally open up to students asking questions at the end. So if your student is thinking about, or you're thinking that NOVA might be a great pathway for your student, nudge them to come to one of these programs, and we'll be happy to get them the information that they need. Yeah. Yes, the question is, to apply for financial aid at NOVA, does a family need to submit anything other than the FAFSA?
So it depends. That's the answer. Quite frequently for financial aid, they may, typically after the FAFSA is submitted, there may be additional documents. They may ask for like a copy of tax receipts. It depends on the student and the case. We will have a session once they've applied in the spring, kind of walking them through how to log into their MyNova account and identify any to-do list items. If there are any forms or documents they need to submit, we'll kind of walk them through that, and then they'll process the aid. And then we also have about 70 scholarships we give out every year to students. And so those are typically separate scholarships, separate applications that the students have to complete. There may be an essay, there may be an interview, it depends on the actual scholarship. So that's an additional, opportunity once they're a student. And we'll also be talking about transfer, like if they have questions about transfer, or a specific four-year school or a specific track, or the workforce, if they want to, prepare to get a job immediately after college, after NOVA, we can kind of walk through any of those kind of ideas, thoughts they have, and kind of lay out what they would be doing at NOVA over the next year or two after they graduate to reach that goal.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so the next thing that you all asked me to talk about is Naviance. So I'm going to share my screen. That, as this is loading, let's see, screen sharing. Naviance is a great tool, but it's overwhelming, just as I will say the College and Career Center websites are overwhelming. And I say that with full knowledge that during the pandemic, my default when we were all virtual was to put as much information out there on the website. So perhaps when there is a calm moment, I'll be able to reorganize that a little bit, but Naviance is overwhelming too. And I need to enlarge my screen. Okay, I'm not as savvy as your students' teachers, so my apologies. Okay, so here is the demo screen if you were to log in through your Naviance parent account or a Naviance student account. If anyone doesn't have a Naviance parent account, feel free to reach out to me or your school counselor. Naviance and PowerSchool just aren't happy partners right now. They're kind of fighting siblings. And so basically what's missing is a parent email address is the most common reason why you don't have Naviance set up. And so I just need to know what email address you want. I'll add it. You'll get an automatic email message from Naviance with a temporary login so that you can enter Naviance and explore like you would with your student. As a parent, you can't add the transcript requests. You can't add the letters of recommendation. Those things for the college application process are handled through Naviance. Those are student tasks, but parents oftentimes want to check to see what's been submitted, and that's fine. You have viewing privileges, but not editing privileges. Yes. Any parents of students can have access to Naviance. It's not grade level specific. We are working to be able to push that out to everyone, but it's a work in progress. So I can set it up individually for anyone who doesn't have access, and I'm more than happy to do that, as are the school counselors. We likely just need to add the parent email address with this, the parent email address to connect to the student record in Naviance to get you set up for that. So by all means, feel free to reach out if you don't have a parent account or for any grade level at the high school. Great question. When are students introduced to Naviance? Last year, there were grade level lessons during stable group time for students. And one was just an introduction to Naviance, get the students set up in the 9th grade with their accounts, gave them a few little tasks to do in Naviance. The subsequent years in 10th grade and 11th grade, there were different inventories, career and interest inventories that were assigned to them through their stable group lessons. Junior year is really when they use it most. Well, they start to use it more often. Let me put it that way. They use it the most in the fall of senior year for those who are on that 4-year college path. But the introduction last year came in the spring of 9th grade for the getting the students acclimated with what Naviance had to offer. All right. So some things that are important for parents. As you log into Naviance, on this home screen, under the What's New section, you will see these are our upcoming college visits. Now, our list was very long on September the 15th when we began college visits. We've probably had about 100 college admission officers collectively schedule appointments to meet with our students. Given that the 4-year college application process is about ready to change to the next season for them, where November 1st application deadlines are next week, less than a week away, admission officers are going to be shifting from that recruiting phase to the readings phase. So the number of visitors who are joining us is on the downward trend. I did keep our visits open through winter break. I scheduled them just during Mustang block so that there's no conflict and students won't be getting out of classes. The schools that might be visiting with us in November and into December are more likely to be those schools that have February 1st deadlines or are rolling admission deadlines. And I even added some times during Mustang block for February and March if there are some seniors who aren't certain what their plans are going to be. And there are rolling application schools that will continue to take applications up until a week or two before their classes start. So there are options at all phases of the college process. There are colleges for everyone if that's the path they would like to pursue. So the What's New is our college visit roster. Under important to-dos and tasks at this point, the seniors have been assigned a senior worksheet to complete. My demo student doesn't have a senior worksheet, but yours might. And it would only be there if your senior didn't complete the worksheet. It was assigned to the seniors last spring. And the senior worksheet, along with the parent guardian brag sheet, are 2 documents that our school counselors need to prepare letters of recommendation. As a parent, you can find the parent brag sheet right at the bottom. So you just click on it, the hyperlink opens. You can download the Google file to your computer and then save it and personalize it and email that to your student's school counselor. Know that the senior worksheet questions that the student answers combined with what you share in the parent brag sheet, those are internal documents. They are not sent to college admission officers. They don't become part of an application. It's background context to help the college counseling, to help the counselors write a letter that's going to be helpful for their college consideration. So that's oftentimes where I get questions about where to find the brag sheet. There are links to some other common websites, the CSS profile, and this is I have a whole long list of things that I've given you as resources right within Naviance, if that's useful to you. The different career inventories, like exploring different careers. There we go. Career clusters, they can go and say, oh, I'm really interested in the median salary for an accountant and an auditor. What is that? So they can explore lots of different careers here. Just type in a title like biologist and see what comes up. Biologist, median salary of $75,000 and change a year. And then click further, they can put it on their favorite list and go back to it at a later point and review it. They can click on biologist and be taken to an overview, find out what skills a student would need or training to become a biologist and overlapping areas in chemistry, the salary information, and then if there happens to be a connection in Naviance to any professional organizations that have opportunity to learn more, it would be noted there as well. So lots of sit at home on a comfortable couch and explore career possibilities. Cast the wide net, the big umbrella, and then sift down from there. Now, you're probably saying, well, my student doesn't know what they want to do, and that's okay. Starting with the big cursory review of different career fields and interests is perfectly fine. There are colleges, if a student is on that college path, that a student doesn't need to declare their major until the end of sophomore year. They can take those general education classes, explore different areas of interest and content, and then work with their advisor and the staff at their college or university, talk to staff in the Career Development Center, for example, and find out who are alums in these fields and do informational interviews to learn more before they're committing to a particular path. So these are resources that are available, but know that your students are going to access them at all at very different points based upon their own process of reflection and identifying who they are and what's going to give them that personal satisfaction and fulfillment. And also, as we put our parent hats on, say, what's going to pay the bills? So I can be an independent, successfully launched adult living on my own, and I'm not, that's what I think we all can say we want for our children. So Naviance has lots of tools that will help them figure out who they want to be and envision all of the possibilities. And as parents, I encourage you to explore that, encourage that exploration because there are so many options out there, and whether it's a 4-year path, a 2-year path, an apprenticeships program, whatever is going to help them find that sense of self and satisfaction is what I hope for all of our students, that they become who they want to be and have the tools in order to be successful in those pursuits. Those are some of the key highlights. Are there other things about Naviance that would be helpful for you as parents to know about? Yeah.
You mentioned the inventories. They can go back and do again, or can you see what they have done?
There is one that can be repeated, and I have to say, I forget which one that is. The school counselors direct that particular lesson for the students. There's one that can be taken over many, many times. There are 2 inventories, and there's the second one is Holland. It does the Holland Assessment. That is one that is one and done within Naviance.
The results would be
The student, yeah, in my demo student, I don't have that to show you necessarily, but yes, your student would have their results in Naviance to go back and see, oh, when I did this in 10th grade, this is what it said, but here I am in fall of senior year, and ooh, that just isn't reflective of who I am now, and that's fine. We all grow and change. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
I feel like I don't know what I don't know. Is there like a number one tip you would tell a parent of a junior who's freaking out? Like, I know Naviance now.
Okay.
On that. But is there anything else? Like any sort of main thing that you take away? Which is nice.
Yeah, let your student be the driver of the ship. There's a lot of adulting that can come from this time in their lives. And as parents, if you're going to micromanage their process, I have to ask, I have to wonder, are they going to be successful when they have to do things independently? So if your student is December of senior year and doesn't know what they want to do, that's okay. There are staff here who will walk alongside with them and tell them what some options can be and hopefully plant that seed. But there's not a need to panic as a junior. There's not a need to panic in the fall of senior year. That I know so many students with the end of the quarter now, this week, combined with college application deadlines for early decision and early action for a lot of schools on Monday, November 1st, there's this frenzy of what else, what am I not doing? And sort of that hype of student culture. And that is unfortunate because not everyone's on that timeline. And it's okay to have a different timeline. But if your student is the one directing that ship, I think they will be in a better position to take ownership of it and make decisions that are in their best interest rather than perhaps being imposed. So, and I think that applies to any path, whether that be the four-year college path or the apprenticeship, or deciding that they want to enter the workforce and they're going to take a year and work at a restaurant in Tyson's and figure it out. That's okay. Okay. Yeah.
And you can look up a college and see what they require.
Yes, thank you. Yes, let me give an example for that. The question was, can you look up colleges? And yes, you can. And there are some things that I should point out to parents about the information in Naviance, because it's a wealth of information that is specific to our high school. And I can't emphasize that enough, that you can go look at every college website for those four-year paths and find out what is their mid 50% range for scores. And that's very useful information for standardized testing. What's the mid 50% for GPA? But schools have 8-point GPA scales, 5-point GPA scales, not IB programs, no AP classes. The school has a restriction that they can only take 3 AP classes. So the numbers alone don't represent the rigor of a student's academic program. So while it's helpful, there's also limitations to the data. So I like that we have it and it's available, but take it all with a grain of salt, because admission officers are going to be looking at your student's application in relation to our school profile. And I believe I added the link to the school profile on that menu on Naviance. If it's not there, I'll look tomorrow. I do have a page for college admission officers on the College and Career Center website. College admission officers aren't necessarily going there. It was more thinking ahead when we can have them come in the building and someone might need to get directions to come to our school. There's a map and narrative of directions, but I also have a link to our program of study and our current school profile. So that gives you the context of which your student's application is read in. Naviance is helpful here for JMU because you can get net price, colleges that they overlap with, the acceptance rate. So some general information about the school, but here is where I think the information ratchets up in terms of its interest. You can see for JMU, the SAT range nationally for all of their students in their applicant pool, the SAT was a 1030 to a 1220. For students from our school who've applied, and I should say the data goes back to 2008 in Naviance, that SAT range was a 1240 to a 1390. And this is for students who have applied. So then you're gonna say, well, that's nice, but who got in, right? We all are interested. Is this going to be a school for your student that they're likely to be admitted to? So the next tab that I think is really helpful is the admissions tab. Here you can see with the bar graphs, how many students have applied in each year and what were those admissions decisions. The footnote I'm going to add here, though, is this information is only as accurate as the students who entered it. So, so there could be some inaccuracies here or there, so don't take it as 100% certain. In the senior graduation survey, the students historically have been asked to share their admissions decisions to all of the colleges to which they applied. If that didn't make it high on their list right before graduation, there may be some gaps there. If you scroll down even further, JMU I picked because it's a school where we have a robust applicant pool. And as you can see, all of these check marks indicate a different type of admission decision. So all the green check marks are students who've been accepted, and it's plotted based upon SAT and GPA. So this is for our school. And then you can extrapolate from our school to the national comparisons to determine for your student, is JMU is my example, is it going to be a school that they have a solid chance of being admitted to, that their test scores and GPA put them in the top 25% of the students who are admitted, so they're more likely to be admitted? Are they in that mid 50% range? Is it a good likely school for them, or is that match school? Or is it a reach school, depending upon what their numbers are? And I say that this is only based upon two things. We all know that there's so much more to our students than numbers. Numbers are not necessarily reflective, and there's all kinds of discussion continuing in the college admission community in regards to, are we going to be bringing back standardized test scores? Are we going to require that? Many schools are test optional for this application cycle, but our students are more than their numbers, and they have opportunities in their applications to share that. through their essays and extracurricular activities, people who they choose to write letters of recommendation and so forth. But here's some information if your student is on that college bound path, some really rich data that can help you help them as the drivers of their ship, or I should say drivers of their car, train, something. And I guess you do drive a ship, I guess navigate a ship. Pardon my phrasing there, but I think you get my point that as students figure out where they would like to be, and you can help guide them on that path by using some of the information that's available in Naviance. So.
Yeah. And if they're thinking again, specifically of a four-year school in the state of Virginia, don't forget that NOVA has the guaranteed admission agreement contracts. We have about 70 contracts, one with pretty much every school in the state, and a few out-of-state schools. So some pretty selective schools. So if they don't have the academic, maybe, you know, you're concerned about their academic profile coming out of high school, they can always start at NOVA, right? Pay a lot less as a family, right? We have student life, we have the honors program, you know, really small class sizes, about 25 students per class. So they get that individualized attention in the classroom, and they can still transfer and be guaranteed a spot in, you know, especially if you're thinking of Virginia schools. They can also do it, you know, do that if they're thinking of an out-of-state school. It may not be guaranteed admissions, it may be competitive, but it may just be a good fresh start. Because obviously the past 2 years have been very unique for a lot of students, and so it's understandable that they may need to just kind of maybe take a little bit more time before jumping into a four-year school environment. So just throwing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you raised a good point that we haven't really talked about, the finances. To put things in perspective, NOVA is about $6,000 a year. My heart skips a beat when I talk to some of the admission officers who are telling me that, oh, tuition, room and board is in that $75,000 to $80,000 ballpark. So 75 to 80,000 versus 6 is quite a difference. Now, that's not taking into consideration any need-based financial aid, merit scholarships. That's a whole other, frankly, big can of worms that complicates the admission landscape, but it helps bring tuition costs down. So I think highlighting the economical aspect of a NOVA starting point. To put Richard Bland in perspective, to go to Richard Bland and live on campus is about $19,000 a year when you add the room and board component. So it's roughly 9 for tuition and 10 for the room and board. So still substantially less than some of these private colleges that are in the $75,000 to $80,000 ballpark. So is anything else about Naviance, or I'm happy to open things up to questions in general. Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions here, I think we can wrap up the recorded part. And let me thank you again for having me to share some information with the parent community. I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation and as the school year unfolds. And as those of you who have younger students and are feeling, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. There's, you know, who's this fast talking person who is just spewing lots of information at me, know that I'm happy to help dissect it into smaller chunks to make it feel a bit more manageable, but it is a lot, and it's a lot for your students. So as parents, as much as you can let them be the drivers, being there to kind of wrap around and help pull the pieces together certainly can be helpful too. Yeah.
How is foreign study affected by what?
How is foreign study in terms of how is foreign study affected by going to NOVA first? If you mean if a student would like to do a study abroad opportunity?
Yeah, like if their goal is to go to 4-year school to finish, but they start at NOVA, is there a loss opportunity to study?
That's a great question. And you certainly have a perspective from the 2-year angle if you want to answer, and then I'll give my perspective from having worked in the 4-year college environment.
Yeah, so we actually offer study abroad opportunities. They're limited in comparison to 4-year schools, but we have different programs. We have like a theater program that goes out to the Czech Republic every summer. Pre-COVID, things are obviously a little bit unique right now. But there are opportunities, and there are also opportunities where students can sign up for study abroad programs with four-year schools as a NOVA student. So like American University, a lot of these schools will open up their study abroad programs to NOVA students. They just have to meet whatever academic requirement is laid out. So they're definitely still available. And even in terms of transferring, we have one of our guaranteed admission agreement contracts is with a school in Europe. So we do have, we have a lot of students who transfer abroad, who transfer, in the US to other states. So the opportunities are endless as long as they, again, have an idea of where they want to, begin with the end in mind is our motto. So we, encourage the students to really start thinking early about where they want to end up so that we can help them kind of map out a plan to get there.
Having worked at a couple of four-year colleges and universities, and I was at one point was a transfer admission officer for a school. So typically colleges, the four-year colleges are going to look for 2 years of residency. In order to grant that student a degree from their institution, they're going to look for 2 years of residency. So if a student goes to NOVA and doesn't do the study abroad opportunity, does that mean that study abroad is completely off the table? Not necessarily. It's going to depend upon what study abroad opportunities the four-year school that you transfer to has and hosts themselves. Many colleges will have a campus in Paris or a campus in Singapore. They have programs that their faculty run in different parts of the world. If that's the case, and it's their own faculty members who are teaching those classes, studying with School X's faculty at a different campus site tends to be seamless. And not a problem for students to study abroad. It potentially could become an issue if the student doesn't have 2 years of coursework through that institution. If for like the 60, it's usually around 60 credits are required to be completed at that four-year school to be granted that degree. So if you were to go to School X, but you wanted to participate in School Y's study abroad program, it would depend upon what that agreement is. So I wish I could say I have a universal answer. It depends on the four-year college. Yeah.
The only disadvantage I see going to NOVA is, let's say you get a 3.5 GPA, you're doing very well. When you transfer to the four-year school, you only get the credits. You start at 0.0 GPA again.
Typically, yes, the credits themselves will show up on your transcript from the next institution, but the cumulative GPA would be those latter 2 years. If a student was applying to graduate school, however, they could always have the NOVA transcript with those grades and that cumulative NOVA GPA sent along with their four-year degree institution to put that picture together.
And that's how it would be factored in moving forward. They would, grad program would factor in both the GPA and the four-year school. GPA is to determine the cumulative GPA. So it wouldn't be
So the information would be shared with the potential employer if they were looking for transcripts or with the graduate school program, professional program application. It just wouldn't be combined into one number on one piece of paper. The admission officers would look at it in context for what that student's educational trajectory has been.
Thank you for the reminder. If you have an underclassman who is interested in college coursework and maybe is not part of the IB program is very intense. And so maybe they're not part of the IB program, but they still want to get an introduction to college coursework. Dual enrollment courses through NOVA are a great way to get that introduction. And, with that would start I thought of this because that would start their college GPA. They would have an official college transcript with their NOVA transcript that they would submit when they do graduate from high school. But it is a great way to kind of get that college credit without an exam determining the credit, right? Like the IB where it's one, you can do really well in the class. And then if you just have one bad test day, you don't get credit for that class if the score is not high enough. With dual enrollment, if you're getting a good grade in the class, it's a NOVA class, you have your NOVA transcript, And you should be able to assess that for credit.
Any other questions, or are we about ready to conclude? Okay.
You've given us so much time, so thank you so much, Sheri and
My
Celeste.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming. And I will, we are recording this, and so in the next newsletter, I will put it, link the video of this program so that if people didn't get to watch it, they'll be able to find it. And also, if you felt like that was a lot of information at once, you can go back. And I'll put both of your emails on there as well. So if people need to reach out to you, they can do that. And also, we have in the last newsletter, I put the link for the senior night presentation, but I'll put that back in. So if people want to see different kinds of things, they can. But thank you so much for coming and helping us navigate. One of the parents commented, "I'm glad my student is the captain of this ship. It sounds overwhelming." So, and thank you guys all for coming as well tonight. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Oh, for those of you who are here,
Please.